tradition takes 3 times, right? Like the second time is just a repeat. The third time is a tradition. So now they had traditions.
Were you a lot more prepared, I guess, at that point, 2 years older?
You would think. LemonWheel, I did a large chunk of 98 summer tour. So I was coming off of that like Meriwether, Virginia Beach, Burgettstown, Vernon, LemonWheel.
You know, we were like, all right, we're leaving Vernon Downs the second the show was over, right? And then we're going to head right up there.
So driving up to LemonWheel, I remember it being kind of familiar, right? Because we had just done the Great Went the year before. It's weird because I went from 4 friends at the Clifford Ball to 3 when we did the Went, down to just me and my buddy Dan. So it was just the 2 of us for the LemonWheel.
So I was with a group of people. Buddy of mine's car broke down in the park in a gas station at Vernon Downs, and he's like, "I'm going home. I can't." His brakes were like metal on metal. So me and my friend had to hitchhike, and we got into a van with a guy from Colorado who was going, and he already had a hitchhiker in the van with him, and that guy had a hockey bag with like pounds of mushrooms, pounds of weed, hash, thousands and thousands of dollars.
I remember as we got closer, these 2 chicks passed us, and like just both of them in the car, like honking the horn and like flashing us like as they're driving by and whatnot.
This kid was like, you know, doing all his drug weighing out eighths and quarters and ounces and stuff. And I got a 1/4 ounce of mushrooms from him, and I had some weed in a jar. Buddy of mine got some mushrooms, and we got pulled over in Newport, Maine, and we got arrested for possession of Schedule X drugs.
So we drove all the way up to Maine and got there way before. So we decided, we had like 25 cases of beer. We decided to drive by and see what the scene looked like, and there were people lined up. So we hopped in line, and we were like the 15th car in line.
I remember my buddy Dan was like adamant that like we were going to catch up with them, and like we had to meet them, and we never did. So whatever.
So, you know, we go in and we set up, and you know, whole day before. I mean, you know, they weren't supposed to open until Friday morning. This was like Thursday at like 6 p.m.
The cop was like, "You've been quiet. What's in this truck?" And I was like, "The only thing I know is that black Eastpak backpack, and it's got mushrooms and pot in it. That's mine. I'll take responsibility for it. Otherwise, I don't know these people. Like, I'm trying to get a ride back to college or whatever." And the guy found the guy's big bag, and we all got let go with promise to appear in court. And it was a whole ordeal. But we went to the festival.
We're selling beer. We decided to sell our beer. We got 25 cases of beer. This guy walks up, and he's like, "Can you give me a couple beers, man?" And I'm like, "Nah, 2 for $5. And my buddy Pat's like, looks over, he's like, "It's cool, Kevin." He's like, "What's up, Chris?" It was fucking CK5 hanging out in the line looking for free beers.
We got dropped off at University of Maine with my friends. I borrowed like $20 from a buddy to just not go into the festival with nothing, and ran into the kid that got arrested, and he handed me a bunch of hash to sell, like little balls of hash. So I walked around selling hash to like eat. But LemonWheel was fantastic.
The LemonWheel was Phish's not doubling down so much as refining their festival formula. Now, of course, Phish famously tries to stay away from formulas, but we know that for festivals, there's kind of a template that they've been following.
it was very similar to the Great Went in the setup, at least outside of the concert area, because we had just been there and not like had just done a festival there. We had just literally been to the exact same spot. So everything was pretty much set up the same. Like a lot of the whole tar mat was shakedown, and everybody was set up that way.
My friends were there with a camper, and I kind of like crashed. I had to kind of like lean on my friends to help get me through that one, you know?
Yeah. Well, I imagine showing up broken without bags and shit.
Dude, I was so sick for like weeks after when I got home, just because like I had like shorts and flip flops and out like a t-shirt. I borrowed a hoodie from a friend. Like it was freezing at night.
With the doubling down came twice as many porta potties. That was like the big takeaway from, or the big like welcoming thing maybe when we got there was they made a big deal out of we're fine tuning here. We heard all your feedback. We now have twice as many porta potties.
The experience was a little different, maybe because it was just the two of us. I'm not sure, but I do remember buying what I was told was a Thai stick, and it ended up being like a fucking pretzel stick with potpourri like glued to it.
And also twice as many toll booths for ingress to let people come in a little bit faster. I believe I probably waited in line to come in for a couple of hours at least. I know that they opened up the gates early, like they had done the year before and the year before that.
And I should have known better when it was supposed, like, it was 100, and I was like, yeah, I'm out. And it was like, oh, 50. And I was like, oh.
At the Great Went, there was the Went Central, and at the Clifford Ball, there's the Ball Square. Instead, here there's the Garden of Infinite Pleasantries, I believe.
But I remember with LemonWheel, the Garden of Infinite Pleasantries was a thing. They had like more art stuff there. They had more like things to go get weird and lost in.
It was really cool because you went into the concert area and then there was a torii gate. That's what they call that thing that the Japanese have, that you go from the mundane to the spiritual.
But LemonWheel, I remember being very uh Japanese garden type feel at times.
There was definitely a Ferris wheel, lemon wheel, Ferris wheel. So that believe was added that year. I don't believe that the Ferris wheel had been there at the first two. So that was definitely new.
So you walk through it, and if you know what it is, even if you don't, I guess you understand that you're going from one place to another because of you're walking through this gate. And when you walk through, what do you get?
You get lost in these weird little. There seemed to be dips and dwellings. Like it felt like Ewok Village a little bit at times.
Yeah, I remember like it being a thing that like we wanted to go on the Ferris wheel, and we wanted to like get, you know how they let people off at the bottom and you're stuck at the top?
You get the porta potty tower, you know.
Like we wanted that to get like the full overview of the entire grounds. And I mean that was really wild, like very surreal being up there and like seeing it from that vantage point.
You get these mechanical cranes, which cranes in the Japanese and the Lotus is all very interconnected. They had the Lotus Mound.
You know, it was like, let's get stuck at the top and smoke a bowl up there and watch everything from above. And
There's a lot of dark, and what I mean by that is just lack of artificial light. Like you walked around this place and it was so massive.
They did a sound check on site, so they didn't need to do a Matt Yasupa and a Harpua in front of a paying audience. Instead, they did a sound check that they knew everybody could hear.
It was like a Ginseng Sullivan back at the Chicken Shack. She caught the Katie, Dog Log. They did all these covers, and you could hear them completely well. We went and hung out right up by the entrance. So I was on the rail for that.
I waited by the gate and sprinted to the front row of the festival for 2 sets where I had my first, well, not my first, I'd say one of my first Antelope Greg run-ins. which was a little bit interesting. Yep, R.I.P. But he him. I think his brother maybe was down there with him, or his buddy. But they like their space, and we kind of just we're right up front, right on the rail.
I guess a lot of people don't think the music from the LemonWheel is as memorable as the other two festivals, and in a sense, I mean, I kind of get it. There wasn't like the Went Gin, and then like Clifford Ball had just an amazing fluff head and chalk dust, and like Divided Sky. The list kind of goes on, but it seemed like Divided Sky was becoming a staple at festivals. Like you can count on getting a Divided Sky. I'm pretty sure it was the third year in a row that happened, and then
what stands out to me more than anything was the NICU Bowie that opened one of the sets, the second or third set.
That David Bowie's phenomenal. The song, although the artist, much respect. And R.I.P.
Like the intro to that is, you just don't hear that anymore. Like Bowie, you get the hi-hat going and like the song starts in like 30 seconds. And they used to really like build up the intro of Bowie, and it would get wild, and there'd be, secret language symbols that would come out in the intro of Bowie all the time. And like,
me and my long intros, and it was one of those beautiful Bowies. It had cooled down. We were in Maine. It probably had gotten down to 75, 78 degrees. So it was nice. There was a breeze flowing. They were just letting it rip with the long intro. And that really stood out.
There was a big build up to Bowie, and it's a very good version. I mean, if you've never listened to the LemonWheel Bowie, that would probably be the go-to for that festival out of everything that was played, in my opinion.
And it was 98 Phish, so everything was so deeply funky, and it was just so like the jams felt way more psychedelic and just more like out there and jammy and shit.
The secret set, which was announced from the stage, so it wasn't so secret, had evolved from the truck bed jam, the flatbed, truck jam, to the Great Went, the not so successful disco set, to the what's now known as the ambient jam.
They did this ambient jam, which I still listen to sleep at night. That was really cool.
This was at a time when every single person attending the festival was also staying on site, including the band. There were no hotel packages, and there was nothing else to do, and no other bands to compete by design. So we all were at the ambient set.
It was interesting because it was, unlike the flatbed jam or the fucking late night DJ disco thing that they did at the Great Went or whatever, it was told to us that it was happening.
That set is just phenomenal. You should listen to it. It's actually really great.
And it wasn't a secret set like the later years or anything like that. It was like told to us in advance, but
until recently, the ambient jam was literally just my memory. I remember where I was for it. Right not too far in front of the soundboard. I remember the vibe and all the candles that were on the stage.
They had a thing, again, it was interactive. You could make candles, right? So during the set, that was the fourth set the first night, the overnight set, they circled the whole stage with all the candles everyone had made the first day.
They lit all these candles that were made by the fans.
And I remember like all the candles set up, and it was the whole ambiance of the whole thing for the ambient jam was really right on point.
Instead of fans making art that then they were aghast that the band should burn, this was art that the fans were making that they knew the band was going to burn because they were candles. And so the band placed them on stage.
And they played in a ring of fire. Now, if you go back and look at the ads and all the newspapers from that summer, it was Phish plays in a ring of fire.
But it's interesting because for years, that set has been described, and I think I even described it at the time as a Brian. It was the Brian Eno set. It was ambient.
To me, it wasn't really my thing musically, but the vibe was very cool because it was, just kind of take a seat and relax.
Listening back to that ambient set, it's in the same style as almost all of their secret sets. It's in the same style. I don't know that ambient's the right word for it. Ambient would be the right word for the flatbed jam. But this was more of, it was in the vein of the Magnum Ball, movie soundtrack. It was in the vein of the Tower Jam. It was in the vein of the Storage Jam, and all these things that we'll get to in the weeks to come. It was kind of like that. If you listen to it, there are moments when it rips, and it is just creative and imaginative. Obviously, the entire thing is Type 2, and it is, and it's psychedelic. It's psychedelic.
We all took a really good, we had it, I think it was the Saturday daytime set, or AC/DC Bag was that set. I don't know why it sticks at Ginseng Sullivan was that set. But we were all deep back in the field, and we had all eaten mushrooms, 20 of us. And it was just one of those collective, perfect trips where you just timed out perfect, giggling, space, sound, everything was perfect. If one person saw one thing that made them laugh, the whole group saw, it was just, we were on this collective, frequency. And, I was trying to write the set list down, and I don't know what dude, I got to send it to you. AC/DC Bag turns into this weird drawing of a seesaw and some other odd shit. And it was just so stupid and goofy. But my friend Meg was like, what the hell are you doing? I had my eyes closed and I was just drawing the music or whatever, but it was just such a silly, dumb thing, but I kept it. And it's just
the second and third set of this night might be one of the best 2-set shows I ever saw. Put it that way. You could get rid of the first set, but the Sabotage 2001 was just simply fantastic.
The start of set 3 with Sabotage was something I've never seen at a Phish show before. I was on way Mike's side. I think during set break we decided to go get a beer or food or something, and we came back as close as we could to still see the stage, but way over Mike's side, all the way over to the right. And when Sabotage started, it was like being at a Rage Against the Machine show, man. The whole fucking place just started just bouncing. That was really cool. And it wasn't the first time they played Sabotage that year, but I believe it did debut in the summer of '98 and was played a few times. But I just remember the energy being at an all-time high for that. It really just set the tone for them, closing out the whole weekend, and intense, in one word. It was very fucking yes. It was awesome.
My last thought about the LemonWheel is how it ended. Unlike the previous 2 years, which were cursed with endings that not everyone in the audience got, I thought the 2 endings were perfect. I thought ending the Clifford Ball with a cliffhanger with the Harpua, and ending the Great Went Burning Man style by burning it all down and saying, let's do it all again next year from scratch, I thought was perfect. Not everybody agreed with me. However, for the LemonWheel, they didn't burn anybody's art. They didn't leave anybody hanging. Instead, they just had this it almost looked like a paper mache elephant.
I think that was the baby elephant walk on the walk out, and there was I think there was a big ass paper mache kind of elephant being pulled along, and fireworks and all that shit that went with it.
Very Bread and Puppet style. If you know at all about Bread and Puppet, which was enormously influential to Trey, Anastasio in particular, but I think enormously influential to the entire operation, to the point where some of the people that actually had a hand in creating that elephant also were involved with Bread and Puppet. That being said, it was a puppet. It was like it looked like a paper mache puppet in my big wide people eyed, in my big wide people eyes at the time. And I remember looking at my friends going, "Oh my God, it's an elephant! It's an elephant! There's an elephant in the field!"
The elephant came, and its nose was spraying water all over the place, and they went into the baby elephant walk, and the elephant like walked off from the stage towards the campground, and people started following it, like leaving the concert, and like Pied Piper kind of thing.
So how do you go out at the Lemon Wheel? You have fire. I mean, Trey said repeatedly that he was such a big fan of the pyro. And so since they didn't want to light fans' art on fire for a second year in a row and face that same criticism, instead, this time they took, and I say criticism, I do think a lot of people got it. And I think that in hindsight, of course, on Fishnet and Rec Music Phish, some of those complainers and detractors are the loudest people in the room. But I think most people thought, holy shit, these are, especially with the art, maybe not so much with the harpua, but the baby elephant, everybody can get behind a baby elephant walking across a field.
So as opposed to where we burned everything down the year before, this year they took the flame of the candles, lit the eternal flame, and then used the flame to lead everyone off, and it almost ended a bookmark to the 2 years that were there, like an exclamation point on the other side of it.
God, what an unbelievable experience. And I loved LemonWheel for what I remember of it.